Hello, and welcome to another episode of In Just 1 Minute. So today we continue talking about networking and in particular, the skills of networking conversation. Let's jump in. The skills of networking conversations. However much you prepare, the moment comes when you have to get going. You have to walk into the room and start talking to somebody. There is no one way to do this. Some people cannot resist starting with a humorous remark. Others use well-established lines like, "How we met before? What brings you here?" The important thing is that you do it. Make contact. Establish rapport. Complaining about the food is one way to make contact, but before long you may find yourselves agreeing that everything about the occasion is disastrous. Avoid emotive subjects such as religions and politics, at least to start with, and be very careful about assumptions linking one person with another. For instance, "Are you married?" can be a very embarrassing opener. Be appropriately vulnerable. The other person may well be feeling as nervous as you are. Acknowledging your own apprehensions, especially if you go first, actually expresses confidence and is an excellent free gift with which to start the conversation. It's more than likely that you won't remember the person's name within the first few minutes of your conversation. Too much else will be going on. A few simple tricks here to help you remember the name. Use the name of the first introductions. "Hi, I'm Megan." "Megan, hi. Pleased to meet you. I'm Tony." Ask for the name again if necessary. Taking the trouble to ask is another gift that it will be appreciated. And finally, use the other person's name once or twice during the conversation. Some people tend to be better at doing this than others. Now, keeping the conversation going. In the early stages of a conversation, try to listen more than speaking. Be the first to ask a question. Then listen to the answer. Make sure that it's an open question, beginning with one of the 6 W's. What do you do for a living? Where do you meet most of your clients? When did you start on this line of business? Who is your link with the host organization? How did you start out? Be careful with the question why. It's hard not to sound like an interrogator using that word, however hard you try. Now listen for remarks that will generate another question. Have that question ready in the back of your mind as you listen on. You've solved the next move in the conversation and can relax a little. Share something about yourself. Try to link your remark to what they have said. If you feel comfortable, shift the conversation to start discussing your aims for being there and perhaps your aims for this conversation. Summarize and paraphrase. Check your understanding of what the other person is saying. This keeps you focused, gives you time to think of something else to say, and shows that you are listening. Another way to keep the conversation going is to bring someone else in. "Chris, come and join us. We're just talking about... I know who you should meet. Let me try to find this other person." Passing the ball in this way can relax or enhance the conversation. It can also be a good way to bring a conversation to a close politely. Having introduced people to each other, you can excuse yourself and move on. Join in groups. Approaching a group of people is slightly different from approaching an individual. People often worry about how to break into group conversations that are already in progress and whether to do it. Being able to read the group is helpful. So first, arrive early. One of the best ways to manage groups is to be in the start of one. Use previous contacts. Everyone you speak to early in the event is a potential joiner later. Use one as a link person if you want to join a group. Also, judge the tightness of the group. How closely are these people standing to each other? How is their eye contact? Can you see an opening, or is the group broadcasting its exclusivity by turning all backs on the rest of the room? Exploit fractures. Conversations rarely survive being extended beyond 3 people. Groups of 4 or more will either be audiences listening to a single dominant person or mini groups in the process of splintering from a main group. You could join the audience, or you could look for two people talking and gently insinuate yourself as a third. Another one is to pick off stragglers. Not everyone in the group will be entirely in the circle. Find someone at the edge. Perhaps they are looking as if they want an excuse to move on, and approach them. Also, use listening time to establish your presence. Make eye contact. Respond to what someone is saying with smiles and nods. Ask a question as your first contribution. It's a good way to enter a conversation without being too rude. And finally, ask permission. Find different ways of asking permission to enter a new space. For instance, excuse me, I don't mean to interrupt, but I overheard you were talking about. Oh, forgive me for interrupting, but am I right in thinking that? Sorry to barge in, but can I just ask you about what you were saying? Playing host is a brilliant way to break into groups. Pick up a bottle of wine or a plate and circulate. Playing host is a great way to build rapport, actually. You're putting people at their ease. You're offering gifts, always a great way to get people interested in you. You're able to introduce people to each other. Playing host also helps you. It gives you certain authority, or at least something to do, and it gives you control. You can judge when to stay with someone or when to move on. Pick somebody that is alone. One way to deal with the problem of breaking into groups is to start your own. Look out for someone who is on their own and looking uncomfortable. Approach them kindly and gently. Share your own vulnerability. Use the occasion to exercise all your conversation skills. Draw in other people. Introduce your new contact to someone you already know. Before you know it, you'll be the center of a brilliant group conversation. Now, closing the conversation. Whether the conversation has gone well or not gone anywhere in particular, take care to close it well. The final impression we make is almost as important as the first one. Never leave someone abruptly. A simple way to exit from a conversation is to connect the person to someone else in the room. Make the introduction. Make sure that it has stuck. Are they actually exchanging more than one remark with each other? And walk away. Alternatively, use a plausible reason for leaving. Maybe you're expecting a colleague to arrive. Maybe there is someone you need to speak to before they leave. These are simple strategies for closing a conversation, but think a bit more deeply before you use them. Explore possibilities and opportunities. How could this person help you? Don't be afraid to share your needs and goals. Doors might open in the conversation that neither of you had previously noticed. The question, how do you know who, can be a powerful networking question. Remember that you are networking to ask, not to demand. Even if they look like a good prospect, don't sell. The parting stage of a conversation should always involve action of some sort. Lots of actions could end a conversation. You could invite the person to meet someone else, make a gift of information or food or drink, agree to meet again, or exchange cards. As a side note, if you are exchanging business cards on an international level, people are increasingly aware that the business cards are handled differently in different cultures. For instance, Middle East, always present your card with your right hand, never your left. In China, have one side of your business card translated into Chinese and in gold-colored lettering, as that is considered auspicious. If your company has been established for a very long time, it's useful to state the year it was formed on the card. When offering the card, you should do so with both hands. In Japan, to give and receive business cards in Japan is quite ceremonial. Status is important in Japan, and so make sure your title is prominent on the card. And while it's perfectly acceptable to give your card with one hand, make sure you accept one with both hands. Keep it on the table in front of you. If you are meeting several people at once who have all given you their cards, keep all the cards on the table in front of you until the meeting has concluded. Place them in front of you in order in which people are seated to help you remember their names. And finally, in India, business in India places a great emphasis on academic achievement. Your business cards should state any university qualifications you have or any other kind of honor. As in the Middle East, always use your right hand when offering a business card. Thank you so much for joining us today. If you like the content, please consider subscribing. Thank you and see you next week.